It's been over 20 years since the Boondocks has premiered on Cartoon Network, or Adult Swim to be exact. There's been so many amazing episodes. I want to celebrate this show by talking about what I thought were the best episodes, or specifically the number one episode of each season, starting with season 4 and working our way back with season 1. This is Chuku from Imagine Blue. Let's begin.
Gay is gay. Thank you.
What?
No! First one on this list would be New Black. Now, before I get into why I think New Black is the best episode of Season 4, we need to go into the history on Season 4. Season 4 of Boondocks is a different season, and it's probably the most divisive and arguably the most weakest season of the series. For starters, the main creator, Aaron McGruder, was not part of the season, as well as another co-creator, Carl Jones, leaving everything up to Ronnie Barnes, who basically was the head of the season. So you're probably wondering, even though Aaron McGruder is the main creator of the series, how does Ronnie Barnes and Carl Jones fit within the development of this show? All their voices were responsible for different angles that came into the show. Aaron's voice was more of Huey, kind of challenging the way the media reflects on Black culture, as well as the activism side of the show. So Carl Jones' voice was more of Riley, just focusing more on the hip hop, talking about the more urban side of Black culture, while Ronnie's voice was more for Granddad, focusing more on the veteran as well as like the old school stuff of Black culture. Which is why this season was more Granddad centered, giving him more of the front of the events that was going on in the series, and why he had a lot of the focus. Also, side note, Ronnie Barnes has a background in like sitcoms, specifically like Black sitcoms like Everyone Hates Chris, as well as My Wife and Kids. So that also explains why a lot of the season did feel like a traditional sitcom in terms of the satire, as opposed to anything that was more edgy or anything more of what you would see in terms of a McGruder version of satire that you've seen in his comic strips. Another side note I would also like to add is the fact that in every season, besides season 4, it's a Huey-centered episode, but this season gave us a freaking Tom episode as the beginning of the season, which I also thought was really weird and different, but that's a side note. Alright, tangent aside, it's time we talk about why New Black was the best episode of season 4. For starters, this episode is challenging Riley's common phrase. I mean, we kind of live in a world now that if Riley were to say the word gay, it would be seen more as something that should be ridiculed than something that we would go with. It's also a commentary of how progressive we've gotten to as a society. You know, now in a world where we had a Black president, Black people saying the words gay, they're no longer seen as a marginalized group, but gay people are, leaving Black people to be the oppressors and no longer the people being oppressed. I also think what add this episode to be considered brilliant than just a great episode is by adding people who are on the spectrum, aka neurodivergents. You see, no one has really talked about the neurodivergent community, and the fact that the neurodivergent community is seen more oppressed than the gay community, who are more oppressed than the Black community, is just showing how progressive we're going in the world and predicted how inclusive we got as a society. It's actually very interesting to think about it that this is technically the last episode of the Boondocks, because for it being the last episode, it kind of explains what would happen if Boondocks were to exist in a modern day society that we live in. If I were to give it some gripes, it would be that, number one, this episode is technically a rehash of the S-word episode in season 2, and the fact that Riley does come off as more of a passive character than an active character driving the plot. However, I do appreciate how this episode, the quality, is almost reminiscent to a lot of what we loved in the first 3 seasons, as well as just one of my favorite episodes of many favorite episodes. And if Boondocks doesn't get the revival that we all want, I'm happy with this being the last episode, because it really answers the question of how Boondocks would work in a more modern, progressive, PC society. Okay, so next is season 3. Now, season 3 is a little bit challenging for me because there were just so many episodes that were just peak, right? I mean, we can start off with the first episode. It's a black president, Huey Freeman. Then we have episodes like the Dodgeball episode, or what's called Red Ball. Then we got the Hateocracy, which is the continuation of the Sneak Meter saga. The Booty Warrior episode, Ruckus's backstory, Ebony Brown, all of it, all no. So, what is the best episode / number 1 episode of season 3?
Fuck you. Fuck the plane you flew in on. Fuck them shoes. Fuck those socks with the bell on it. Fuck your gay-ass fairy faggot accent. Fuck them cheap-ass cigars. Fuck your yuck-mouth teeth. Fuck your hairpiece. Fuck your chocolate. Fuck Guy Ritchie. Fuck Prince William. Fuck the Queen.
That's right, guys. It's Mr. Fundraiser. I'm not gonna lie, this one surprised me, but I had to rewatch season 3, and this one to me was the one that really stood out, and I really feel like this one deserved its flowers. For starters, the animation is just gorgeous in here. In fact, let me talk about how season 3 has like one of the best animations that I've seen, and not just this show, but in TV history. I need you guys to put in perspective that this season came out in 2010. And the animation is superior than most shows that's coming out 2025, which is basically a 15-year time gap. Not to mention, season 4 came out in 2014, and you can see that it looks like a carbon copy of this kind of animation as well as the artwork. But this episode itself, I feel like it really shines the most. As well as it just has everything we love about Boondocks. You have the action stuff, you have the comedy stuff, but really to me, what I feel like deserves its flowers here is the writing. I feel like the writing here has a lot of setup and payoff, which is common in season 3. Like, I do remember a setup and payoff moment specifically in the Hateocracy, but I feel like it was well deserved here. Like, this feels like a really good satire parody of that kind of movies that it's sort of making fun of, but it doesn't in a way that doesn't feel like it's just like haha cheap joke, but you actually believe the world that they're giving you. Like, you're really immersed in the world and you agree with everything. Not to mention, you know, this is Riley's character right here. He loves being a gangster, he loves being a thug, and we're literally seeing him live up that fantasy and the downfalls that come with it. I just, again, and the last scene of him saying, you know, fuck you, you know, my president's black, my Lambo's blue, nigga, was just a really brilliant piece altogether. Like, it just really good writing here, really good animation, really good music. It's just a 10 out of 10 out of this. And again, season 3 has a lot of top episodes. I'm an anime fan. I would have picked Red Ball, but I just feel like as much as I love Red Ball and being an anime fan, I feel like that's where the bias comes in. As well as this season, for me, it felt like it was, everything else was as great as it was. Everything was top tier. Everything was like, nothing was better than the other thing. Nothing was worse than others. I feel like everything was at its peak and that was at its best in its given. And I have to give Mr. Fundraiser the best episode of season 3. I'm back, The Return of Stink Meter is not just one of the best episodes of season 2, but almost the most iconic episode, as well as what people think when they remind themselves of what is Boondocks. Like, if you ask anybody of like, yo man, what was one of your favorite episodes, or what comes into mind when you think of Boondocks, you think about Stink Meter, you think about him coming back from the dead, you think about how Tom kind of looks like Obama, as well you just think about the whole moments of the whole, read, nigga, read. It's just a lot of those great moments of that episode. But what I loved about this episode a lot, besides the fact that it's basically a horror film and we're taking a bunch of ideas from horror genres, as well as that we're destructing the idea of a nigga moment and how that even through death, the ignorance of, you know, not letting go of something still continues and may be haunted from you. What I love about this episode is the fact that it's kind of a reflection of how season 2 is in the Boondocks of itself. Like, the Return of Stink Meter takes the best of all of season 2 of Boondocks. See, before season 2 of Boondocks, season 1 was kind of more of almost like, I would like to say, King of the Hill kind of satire, where a lot of it was grounded in realism. You know, it was grounded in sort of this idea that, you know, they look like anime characters, but they're moving in forward, and the consequences and the actions are like something that we'll see in our real world, right? It's only when season 2 where we start getting into the more wackier stuff. In that episode, the fact that, you know, Stink Meter comes back to life and that Huey's starting to see ghosts, we're starting to embrace this more supernatural element to the Boondocks that we haven't seen before. And what I also appreciate about season 2 of the Boondocks, now that we're talking about a season 2 episode, is that the reason why I feel that season 2 is one of the ones that people love the most out of all the other seasons, despite that season 3 has the most peak episodes out of all the seasons, is that it's consistently funny. Like, you can just watch any episode of season 2 of the Boondocks, you know you're gonna have a good time. As opposed to other seasons, like season 3 that I love so much, there are some episodes that I don't really care for. You know, the Latino Freedom episode, as much as there's some funny jokes, I don't really care for that. Versus season 2 of the Boondocks, I mean, we had like Gangsterlicious, we had freaking the BET episodes, we had, I mean, Gangsterlicious was in, we seen Gangsterlicious in season 1, but it's not the same thing as it is in season 2 the Boondocks, where we go deeper behind it with the Homies Overhaul songs. We just had a lot of things that made this season really work, and I just think that this episode of the return of Stink Meter was a good illustration of what this season is to come, as well as just had so many funny jokes. Like, I love the bit where freaking the Latino woman that Granddad talks explains what's going on, but the fact that Granddad's lying about it was what rubbed her off the wrong way. I even love the joke where freaking Sneaky Meter is like, oh, it's the same thing is about to get into you. It just rubs the other way on that. The fight scene is beautiful. This is one of the best fight scenes in the Boondocks in there. I mean, obviously Hayocracy is better than this one, but I think this is what started the grounds of, like, if you didn't see Boondocks, this is what it is. And to give a little bit of a side note about season 2 of the Boondocks, speaking about the fights, is that I was not a big fan of Boondocks when I first screwed up. You know, Boondocks came around when I was about like maybe in 7th grade, and for me, I just thought it was pretty racist. And it wasn't until, but I was also a lover of anime, right? And it wasn't until I saw that fight scene with just the whole Freeman family against Stink Meter where I really saw the potential of the show and gave it more of why it respects its endearment as well as its flowers. And it's, yeah, because of that, it really changed my whole view. And that episode alone really, you know, it's a great episode, one of the best episodes of the Boondocks, period. Most people, that's their number one, which I can understand. I have a different number one best episode of the whole series, but as far as season 2 goes, this is what I consider the best episode of season 2. All right, so before we get into the best episode of season 1, I kind of want to reminisce on just season 1 in general and how much it's different from the other few seasons, but at the same time starts the groundwork that all the other seasons follow through. Now, season 1 of the Boondocks sort of had this structure to its episodes that felt more like a sort of like a lesson and maybe a lecture than something that was more of just purely mindless entertainment. There would kind of be the structure where Huey would narrate an issue that's among the black community. Then we see what led to that issue and how that issue is resolved. And it's never resolved in a way that's very like satisfying, but more reinforcing why that is an issue to begin with and why that we should be aware of it. To be fair, a lot of this is more Huey-centered episodes, but there is episodes like the Itis, or even to my knowledge, like the episode with the trial, the R. Kelly trial, which I don't feel like is a Huey-centered episode to begin with, that does follow in this context. And not to say that's bad at all. In fact, I kind of love the way season 1 is structured just because it feels more close to a story structure, and it seems like it has a message it's trying to push. But at the same time, I can understand that if you are somebody who just wants to purely just let go and, you know, not think too much, this can feel a little bit preachy and maybe even feel a little bit boring as watching. Nonetheless, a lot of my favorite episodes are in season 1. I think season 1 works from a story structure perspective better than a lot of the stories of the latter seasons. I also appreciate how this season embraces the more vulnerable and more, depressed moments of the Boondocks, or sad moments of the Boondocks, if you will, as opposed to just trying to be cheap laughs here and there and trying to make us laugh 24/7. So the best episode of season 1 of the Boondocks would have to be
I never prayed before. I don't even know who I'm praying to. Maybe I'm too young to know what the world is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be this.
Man, when I think about this episode, I'm just at awe when I just watch this episode, right? I think the thing that makes this episode so special is the juxtaposition between Huey's story and Ruckus's plot of him becoming a reverend and trying to evangelize these people by making them hate black people. The contrast here is both hilariously but also terrifying, where we have both black men who are about to die due to a failure of the white system, and yet one man is embracing because he feels that if he were to do this, he will be given the promises that he believes he deserves, while another man is embracing because he knows that there's nothing he can do and that a kid is all he has at odds to saving his life. This episode did a good job of challenging Huey and testing the idea that in a world where there are just things, systems that are above us, how are we supposed to change it? How we're supposed to get around it? There's sometimes things that even that we know that are in our control that we cannot go beyond it. How do we have any sorts of control? And it made Huey think from a perspective of thinking not just too much in his head and being proactive, but even going beyond his head and viewing from the things that sometimes there are faith has its own divine intervention. And that even though we live in a world that is so full of ignorance and that people are just so unaware or just so stubborn and just trapped in their ways that drinking the Kool-Aid to survive in their life, nothing's absolute. Change is upon us. Even if you have a chance less than 70%, it's still worth trying because you never know if someone or something is listening. I feel like the best moment as well as seen in this series is seeing the moment where we see Huey tear down, because it's that moment where he changes his view about God, which opens the door to God changing his life. Very powerful scene. So that's it, folks. Low-key, looking back at this, I feel like I can explore more. Like, for example, with the Fundraiser, I can explore all the movie references that the episode was trying to imitate as well as acknowledge, as well as I can talk about how even inside the Return of Sneak Mitter, the juxtaposition between when Tom is getting possessed versus when Sneak Mitter is taking control in that nigga moment. But if I went even more, I just feel like this video will be longer than what it is. I mean, it's about to be as long as an episode of the Boondocks, and I feel like we have short attention spans. But let me know in the comments how you feel about this series. Let's celebrate the 20 years, what you want me to see more in depth, what you feel like is underlooked, how much do you think we need Boondocks, or Boondocks is okay, what it is, and season 4 kind of answers why we shouldn't have Boondocks. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed this video.